The rights of American citizens to keep and bear arms continues to be argued. The Second Amendment is routinely cited, but there is much greater depth to this as found in the main body of the Constitution and under current federal law. Let's review what the Constitution says. Of course, the primary source of argument is various interpretations of the Second Amendment of the U.S. Bill of Rights. People that are opposed to individuals owning firearms point out the well-regulated militia part. People that are for private individuals owning arms point out the right of the people to keep and bear arms part. Of course, there's much more depth than just this. The main body of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, defines the powers vested in Congress and that it consists of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Section 8 enumerates powers that Congress has. Of interest for us here, Congress can call forth the militia, and Congress has the power to organize, arm, and discipline the militia. Under the Constitution, Congress defines what a militia is and who constitutes its membership. If this is to apply to individual citizens, then Congress must define that militia members include people not assigned to form a military unit, such as the National Guard. Congress must also have a provision to arm individual citizens and for these citizens to keep their arms in their personal possession. And because Congress has the power to discipline the militia, Congress must have a provision to train individual citizens with military arms if that is in fact the intent. U.S. Code describes federal statutes as established by Congress. They have a formal definition of the militia under Title 10, which is the U.S. Code for the Armed Forces. The organized militia is the first class defined, which consists of the National Guard and the Naval Militia. The unorganized militia consists of members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard. So yes, the National Guard is the militia, the organized militia specifically. But other types of militia also exist, and U.S. citizens not in the National Guard are in the unorganized militia, as described by Congress. So the Constitution enumerates Congress with the power to define a militia. They also have the power to organize and discipline the militia. How does that apply for individual civilians? Well, they've formally described that as well. Under Title 36, the Civilian Marksmanship Program describes how the Congress disciplines and organizes individual civilian shooters. The functions of the Civilian Marksmanship Program are to instruct citizens in the United States in marksmanship and to issue, loan, and sell firearms, ammunition, repair parts, and other supplies to individual citizens. Congress has defined this as a mandated federal program. Individual firearm ownership has been the norm throughout the history of the United States. In an overview of estates from the year 1740 to 1810, it was found that well over half, typically around 3/4, and sometimes as high as 87% of estates had individually owned firearms in it. Furthermore, history books routinely described individual firearm ownership as the norm. This example from a history book from 1867 describes that a certain amount of military organization among the people and a large quantity of arms always in their hand was part of the reason for the Second Amendment. This history book from 1889, the government class book, gave several explicit definitions. Under right to keep arms, the book says everyone is to own and use warlike weapons. Furthermore, it formally defines meaning of militia as the militia consists of all able-bodied men in the nation. The current definitions of militia in the United States were set forth in 1903 under the Efficiencies in Militia Act. The War Department, before the Department of Defense, as a part of its Appropriations Act, included provisions for training individual citizens and arming them. Secretary of War Elihu Root, pictured here, specifically wanted to ensure individual citizens could be trained in the use of current issue military rifles. Now, even though this program is over a century old, don't think that this is some long forgotten thing. Congress still gets reports on this program. For example, this report from 2019 was put together by the Government Accountability Office. Since 1996, the Army has transferred over 700,000 surplus firearms to the civilian marksmanship, purposely for sale to U.S. citizens in the use of civilian marksmanship program training programs. Furthermore, the Government Accountability Office has contracted with Rand Corporation to do formal analysis of this program to make sure that it is fulfilling its assigned role. As a part of this reporting by Rand Corporation to the Government Accountability Office and to Congress, they did a formal evaluation of the CMP. That's the Corporation for the Promotion of Rifle Practice and Firearms Safety. Their key findings were the CMP is effective in its functions to instruct in marksmanship. Of the 10 comparison organizations they looked at, none of them provided data that matched the CMP in scale. Furthermore, the CMP benefits to the Army likely outweigh its costs. So in other words, Congress is still having the Government Accountability Office and Rand Corporations formally evaluate this program that Congress established purposely for providing marksmanship instruction to American citizens and selling surplus military weapons directly to individual Americans. So Congress has formally ruled that individual American citizens are to be trained and armed with military firearms. The military actively provides this training at the national matches. So why is it that so many people are unaware of this? Because most military personnel are novices with firearms. If you have never been assigned to a formal military marksmanship program, you probably never taught at small arms firing school, which means that the opinion of military personnel and a lot of elected officials is they just aren't aware of what the law actually says or the fact that these programs have been in existence for well over a century.